throughout history. Numerous crimes and mysteries have remained unsolved, captivating the public's attention, particularly the real-life whodunits. These whodunits refer to murder cases or puzzles that investigators and the public have been unable to solve, leaving them curious and intrigued about the perpetrator or culprit's potential identity. Welcome to the Amaze channel. If you are deeply curious, subscribe and let's dive in. As previously mentioned, there are numerous unresolved crimes and mysteries throughout history. We have selected some noteworthy cases for you to explore. The Sodder Children. George Sodder and Jenny Cipriani had 10 children. They are John, Joseph, Marion, George Jr., Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, Betty and Sylvia. They lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia. This family was rich and they had a successful trucking company called Dempsey Transfer Company. On Christmas Eve in 1945, the family was in a joyous mood, particularly because their eldest daughter, Marion, had come home from work that evening. The parents went to bed at 10 p.m. along with their youngest child, Sylvia, while John and George Jr. also retired to bed. However, Marion stayed awake, and typically, she was the one to put her younger sisters to bed. But that night, she dozed off on the sofa. At approximately 12:30 a.m., the phone rang, and Jenny, the mother, answered it. A woman on the other end asked for a man's name that Jenny didn't recognize. Believing it to be a wrong number, Jenny hung up the phone and checked the house to ensure everything was in order. She noticed Marion sleeping on the couch but didn't see anyone else, so she assumed everyone had gone to bed and retired herself. Around 1:30 a.m. the woman woke up to find the bedroom filled with smoke. She immediately woke up her husband, George, and left the room to get their children. However, in the chaos, they accidentally left Sylvia behind. Marion went back to rescue Sylvia, while George Jr. and John were able to escape the house. They called out to their other siblings to follow, but only one younger brother responded while the remaining 5 did not, and were unable to make it out. Thomas, a neighbor, called for the fire department when an incident occurred, but unfortunately, they were understaffed. Following the incident, the police reported that 5 individuals had passed away. In 1947, George and Jenny had suspicions that their children were not dead and refused to accept the fire as the cause of their demise. They believed that their children were kidnapped and the fire was intentionally set to conceal the truth. The fire chief, Morris, confessed to placing a beef liver and a heart at the scene, leading the couple to believe that the organs belonged to their missing children. Despite hiring private detectives, offering rewards, and publishing photos extensively, they were unable to locate their missing children. The Zodiac Killer. The infamous Zodiac Killer gained notoriety in the United States for committing at least 5 murders in Northern California during the 1960s and 1970s. He garnered significant media attention by actively engaging with them, sending coded messages to various newspapers that included derogatory remarks towards law enforcement. Despite numerous suspects coming forward over the years, the killer's identity remains unknown and the case remains unsolved. Jack the Ripper. In 1888, a serial killer known as Jack the Ripper brutally murdered at least 5 women in London's Whitechapel area, causing a significant impact on society, despite only posing a threat to a small portion of the community. Even after 105 years, the case remains widely popular among people. And Jack the Ripper is one of the most extensively studied criminals in history. The name Jack the Ripper first surfaced in September 1888, when it appeared as a signature on a letter sent to the head of a London news agency. The Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, was born in 1924 and was found murdered in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Lymette Park on January 15, 1947. Her gruesome murder, in which she was bisected at the waist, became infamous and sparked a massive investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department. Despite identifying over 150 suspects, the killer was never found. The Axeman of New Orleans. The Axeman of New Orleans was an American serial killer who targeted mainly immigrants and Italian Americans, and murdered at least 6 people from May 1918 to October 1919 in New Orleans, Louisiana, and surrounding areas. The killer would enter the victims' homes through the back door, using their own axe or a straight razor to kill one or more residents. The murders were not motivated by robbery, and the killer was never identified. In a letter published in newspapers on March 13, 1919, the killer stated that he would strike again on March 19, but would spare those in locations where jazz music was being played. That night, many people gathered at jazz parties and dance halls, and there were no reported murders. The Axeman's identity remains unknown. The Hinterkaifeck Murders. On March 31, 1922, a gruesome murder took place on a farm in Hinterkaifeck, Germany, where 6 individuals were brutally killed. The victims included Andreas Gruber, 63 years old, and Casilia Gruber, 72 years old. Their daughter Victoria Gabriel, 35 years old, who was widowed. Victoria's 2 young children, Casilia, 7 years old, and Joseph, 2 years old. And the family's maid, Maria Baumgartner, 44 years old. The perpetrator used blunt force to kill them all and then remained on the farm, surrounded by the corpses, for 3 days. The bodies were discovered 4 days later, but the murderer had already fled the scene and remained at large. The disappearance of the Beaumont children. On the 26th of January 1966, 3 Australian siblings named Jane Nartar Beaumont, born the 10th of September 1956, Anna Kathleen Beaumont, born the 11th of November 1958, and Grant Ellis Beaumont, born the 12th of July 1961, vanished from Glenelg Beach in South Australia. Witnesses reported seeing the children with a tall man near the beach on that day. But neither the siblings nor the suspected companion could be located. The Isdal Woman. On November 29, 1970, an unidentified woman was found dead in Isdal, and she has since been known as the Isdal Woman. A man and his daughters discovered her charred body while hiking, and the police were notified. The cause of her death is disputed, with some believing she committed suicide through sleeping pill ingestion, and others thinking she was murdered. The police created sketches of the woman based on eyewitness accounts but were unable to identify her, leading to the case being closed quickly. The Tamam Shud case. On December 1, 1948, a man's body was discovered on the beach at Somerton Park, who became known as the Somerton Man. The case received the name Tamam Shud, which means is over or is finished in Persian, due to a piece of paper found in his trousers bearing those words. It was later discovered that the man was Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker. The prevailing theory is that he died by suicide, as the Rubaiyat, a book found in his possession, pertains to mortality. Another possibility is that Russian operatives were responsible for his death. Despite numerous investigations over the course of 65 years, the case remains unsolved. It is believed that the man may have suffered from severe mental illness and was driven to suicide after losing 4 close relatives in a span of 7 years. The autopsy results suggest that he died by self-poisoning. Several of these cases have remained unsolved for years, and some have even gained legendary status, inspiring countless books, films, and documentaries. We hope you found this video informative and intriguing. Don't forget to follow us for more compelling content on mysteries, crime, and everything in between.